This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is January 20th, 2025. It is MLK Day. It's also Inauguration Day. Definitely interesting day here in the States. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what is going on, my friend?
Oh, not a whole lot. We're just kind of doing the thing. I was out this weekend celebrating the wedding of my sister, which was very fun. Had a great time with the family. And then returned home to literally walked in the door as the game was tipping off tonight against the Nuggets. So got to watch that. But because of my sister's wedding, I missed Friday night, the big watch party at Stadium Club. You got to go, Jonathan. Looked like a good time. How was that?
Well, for those of you that maybe don't follow us on social media, usually I try to get to these things pretty early. I like to be there as people are arriving. So I left the West Coast here where I live at about 4:40 on Friday, and I got caught in traffic. There was an awful accident. Multiple people were helicoptered out of the accident scene. So I was sitting still for about an hour and 10 minutes. What was supposed to be a 2-hour drive was like a 3-hour and 20-minute drive. So I missed the whole first half of that game. I mean, I was listening to it on the radio. Shout out to Jake Chapman, who does a great job. So obviously up to speed on all the things that happened in the first half of that game. But Stadium Club being there was a fantastic atmosphere. Obviously the 321 Hype Crew was there. DJ D Strong stuff was there in the first half. Orlando Magic legend Nick Anderson was there celebrating an early birthday as well. But yeah, place was packed. I think I talked to a rep with the Magic and there were over 400 people there. Just if you were there, if you saw the videos online, like the venue really speaks for itself. I feel like the atmosphere speaks for itself. In the first half, when the Magic were making good plays, I heard that it was a pretty lively bunch, like it typically is at the watch parties. And then the third quarter kind of got out of hand for the Magic, but just an awesome place. We got to hang out for a little bit on the sports simulator after the game. That was fun. And the food was fantastic. I forget what the name of the burger that I had was, but when it came out, I was like, okay, like this looks pretty good. And it blew me away. Like when I say that this was a burger with some of the most fresh ingredients that I've ever had, like the lettuce, the tomato, the pickled red onion, which I love. It was like, and pickles as well. It was a phenomenal burger. So great time at Stadium Club. And then Caribe Royale hooked us up with some sweets, so that we could spend the night there. And just the level of hospitality from the entire staff at Stadium Club and Caribe Royale. Like if you're in the area, you need a place to stay. I know they have shuttles to Disney and all the theme parks. Like if you're looking for a really like high-end joint to stay at, you cannot go wrong with the Caribe Royale property. I was really, really impressed and just super thankful for everything. And we're going to run it back in March. We're scheduled to have another watch party at Stadium Club. So if you missed this one and you don't want to miss the next one, I'll tell you that. It was a great time and definitely looking forward to going back there. It was awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like I said, I missed this one, but I'll be there in March for what hopefully is another electric atmosphere, but also this time ending in a Magic victory. We'll see.
Yeah. Kevin and I got to do something pretty cool a little over a week ago. We got invited out by Kia Center and Levy Restaurants. Levy Restaurants really heads up like all of the food, all of the concessions, all that good stuff over at Kia Center. So they invited us out to do kind of like our take on like a diner, drive-in and dives kind of episode there at the new restaurant, the Tavern on Church. So we got to meet with like Chad Newman, the executive chef of Kia Center and Levy Restaurants. And they do this Orlando Table Initiative where there's 8 local Orlando like establishments and restaurants that they're partnering with to bring those tastes and flavors into Kia Center to help enhance like the food experience at not only Magic games, but Solar Bear games, concerts, all that kind of stuff. So getting to film that was a ton of fun. The food was fantastic, Kevin. I know you and I both really enjoyed that part. So we filmed that, and that video is up on our YouTube and over on our X profile as well. So would love for you guys to check that out. And it's just good to know that you have great food all over Kia Center this year, Kev.
Yeah, and local as well. Like that's pretty important to us. That's why we partner with, the two primary sponsors of our show are both local companies, Jam Hot Chicken and Rock'em, two Central Florida based companies. And so to be able to promote local restaurants that are in Kia Center, I think is super cool. And so, yeah, we've already seen a couple people post on social media that they watched the video and then ate some of that food tonight at the Nuggets game, which is pretty cool. So yeah, definitely check that out. And then next time you're at Kia Center, hit up one of those 8 local restaurants that are in Kia.
Before we get into more like Orlando Magic basketball and we get into talking obviously the state of the week, talk about the Celtics game, the Bucks game, stay tuned a little bit later in the show. I was able to talk with our good friend Jeff Turner earlier in the week. Kev was out of town, so it's just me and Jeff on that. But that interview will be a little bit later in the episode, and that was filmed last Thursday, so before the Celtics game and before the Nuggets game. So if we sound upbeat and optimistic, that's definitely why. But that was a great conversation with Jeff. Really looking forward to you all hearing that. I think you'll get a lot out of it. But now let's go ahead and jump into this week's State of the Magic, even though I'm not super pumped up about this week's State of the Magic because the Magic went 0-3 this week with losses to the Bucks, Celtics, and Nuggets. Now at 23-21, the Magic are sitting at 7th in the East at the time of this recording. They are 13.5 games back of Cleveland, 7 games back of Boston, 4.5 games back of the Knicks, 2 games back of Milwaukee, a game and a half back of Indiana now, and also a half game back of Atlanta, half game up on Miami, 1 game up on Detroit, 4 games up on Chicago, even though the Magic have lost 3 in a row. The Bulls have lost 4 in a row, so the Bulls aren't really doing themselves any favors. And the Magic are now down to 29th in the league on the season, Kevin, with an offensive rating of 107.8. And they've now slid to 3rd in defensive rating with a defensive rating of 107.5. And they're 11th in overall net rating with a positive net rating of 0.3. So you're getting close to having a negative net rating on the season. So at this point, taking a look at the injury report, Goga Batadze is still out in the concussion protocol. Gary Harris is still out with the left hamstring strain. Jet Howard is out with the left ankle sprain. I would expect Jet to be back pretty soon. Hopefully the same for Goga as well. Jalen Suggs is out with the low back strain. Franz Wagner is out with the return to competition reconditioning designation. And then Mo Wagner out with the ACL. It sounds like Franz and Jalen are relatively close. I think we'll probably see both of those guys back in the next week to a week and a half. And hopefully Jet and especially Goga will not be too far behind them, Kevin. We heard from Jamal Mosley earlier today that Franz is obviously going through more contact work. We saw him going through contact work Friday before the game against the Celtics, and we saw Jalen doing some on-court work Friday before the Celtics game as well. So, we're going to talk about this as we talk about the games from Friday and from Sunday, Kevin, but overall, it seems like you're pretty close to getting those guys back.
Please, can we do that? I don't think it's going to fix all of the Magic's problems, but I think it will certainly help some of the issues with this team, right? Obviously, we know what we get with Franz, another guy to relieve some pressure from Paolo. We know what we get from Jalen, not just like stats and defense, but just pure energy. Like, I think it's pretty clear. We've known this for years that he's the heart and soul, quote unquote, of the team, but you look at how this team has done with Jalen out of the lineup, and I think it just kind of confirms that. And then Goga, I was going to say Goga, totally different presence there in the paint, and look forward to seeing him back here soon.
I think you and I, when we started recording this, we kind of had the plan, at least in my mind, to talk about these games separately. I don't feel like doing that, if that's cool with you, if we can call an audible, just because they were both just really crappy. Like if I can find a way to describe those, like both of these games, the story was the effort looked pretty good in the first half, and then in the third quarter, you just completely fell apart. You could not shoot the ball well in either of these games. The Nuggets, you turned over a good bit. Going back to the Celtics game, I feel like we did turn the Celtics over. Let's see, how many turnovers was it for the Celtics? Yeah, the Celtics had just 10 turnovers. So, okay, maybe not a ton, but you had opportunities in these games. Now, Friday, you shoot 15% from behind the arc. And then on Sunday, you shoot 29% from behind the arc. So it's like a little bit better, but it's just still not quite good enough. But the most frustrating thing for me, Kevin, is just the fact that the energy and the juice for this team is completely gone. Like, it went out when Jalen went out, And then we thought, you know what, getting Paolo back, that's going to give this team some juice. And it did for the first night that Paolo came back, but it just has not been there since that point. And I don't know exactly how much of the blame Paolo deserves. I don't want to say it's 0%, but it also doesn't feel like the guy that's missed 34 games all of a sudden has to come back and just be like the savior. We know he is that really overall for the franchise, but I'm still at the point where I'm willing to give him a pass, give us another 2 or 3 games, and I feel like we should kind of be beyond that. But he has not played particularly well since the first night back, since the return, and we're going to need that. But when we talk about accountability and doing things by committee, it doesn't feel very committee-ish right now. It feels like guys just expected Paolo to come back and sort of do everything, and guys just are not stepping up. Guys are not knocking down shots. Guys aren't necessarily defending at high levels for not maybe the entire game, but enough stretches to let the Celtics blow the game open, to let the Nuggets blow this game open tonight. And to me, that's been really the most sort of surprising and frustrating thing in this recent stretch, is just that we can't seem to find a sense of urgency and that juice again.
I hear you, and I agree. To me, though, the thing that is still screaming at me, just crying out to me, is the missed looks, right? Like, I mean, this team is still getting good shots. Not the whole game, not 48 minutes. Still getting good shots, and I keep telling myself eventually they have to start falling. They have to, and they just continually don't. Here we are, 44 games in the season, and the Magic are shooting a historic rate, and I mean bad, right? Like, the numbers are really bad. And there's just no sign of a turnaround, which is crazy. It's just, I mean, again, I know I'm beating a dead horse. We talked about this.
I was just going to say, the only reason I didn't go to that is because this is our 24th episode of this season.
Yeah.
And I didn't want this to be the 24th episode where we just harp on shooting, because, like, to me, that's as obvious as the fact that the Magic are the team with the blue basketball logo.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't need to be said. I mean, it does, but it's just like, we all kind of go into these games now with the understanding that the shooting is going to be terrible. So it's almost like, is there even a point to comment on it? And there is, but you just get so tired of saying it game after game after game. I don't know if it's the illness. Maybe it's making its way around the team. Who knows? Because other guys haven't been listed with the illness designation. But Friday after that game is the most down and dejected I have ever seen Jamal Mosley in his 4 seasons as the head coach of the Orlando Magic. And it was mostly around, like, how do you, like, I think the question was, like, you know, what do you do about the shooting? And he's speechless for like 7-8 seconds before he talks about, like, you know, you just have to trust the work. These guys were getting good looks, which for most teams, it is a good look. Is it a good look for us at this point? I really don't know. Is a wide open 3 a good look for us?
Right.
Oh, I'm not the only person that's asking that. Like, that is a common theme when you look at the conversation around amongst Magic fans now, is like, hey, are you sure that these are good looks? Are there not other looks maybe that we should be trying to get at this point?
Right.
But it's hard to get those other looks without the spacing.
Yeah, very hard. But yeah, I don't know. It's
we're recording this during the Bills Ravens.
I know, I just saw it.
And I just saw the Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
They're going for 2 to try to tie this game up. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
what a throw from Lamar.
That was
133 to go.
Shout out to the offensive line, too, for giving him literally all day long. Helps that he can move around pretty well.
Great day of football. The first round of the playoffs has not been good. The games today were awesome.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff. I kind of want to go, like, big picture here. You called audible on me. I'm going to call audible on you, right?
Omaha.
Omaha. Sorry, I'm distracted again by this football game. My question is this. There are people on Twitter, there are people on Reddit, there are people in our Discord who I feel like are hitting the panic.
Mark Andrews just dropped the easiest 2-point conversion of all time. Just ended their season. Unreal. Mark Andrews, man.
Wide open. That's crazy. Okay, back to the Magic. There are people on Twitter, people on Reddit, people in our Discord who are full on panicking. Right? Is the sky falling? What?
People
yes, in our group chat. Is the sky falling for you, Jonathan? Like, are we there yet or no?
No,
I'm not there.
The only thing that is keeping me sane is the fact that I look up at the standings and we're 2 games back of the 4 seed. That is legitimately the only thing keeping me going right now.
The only thing keeping me... Sorry, go ahead.
You get a couple of guys back. You get Jalen, Franz, and Goga back within the next 10 days, and we're totally fine.
Yeah.
Maybe not fine in terms of like, oh, everything's going to be great, but you start winning games again at a significant rate, enough to bring you back up into the top half of the standings.
Here's what's keeping me sane. When I look at the injury report, that's what keeps me sane.
Yeah.
The fact that you're missing Franz, Jalen, and Goga right now, that keeps me sane. However, the thing that, and the other thing, sorry, I should say, the other thing that keeps me sane is the schedule is about to change, right? Like literally after today, the schedule gets easier. Okay. Here's the thing that I am concerned about though. We've lost 3 in a row. We've lost 3 out of 7. That can quickly turn into 4 in a row, 5 in a row, 10 out of 12, 15 out of 17, right? Like this can spiral out of hand pretty quickly. And so it is up to Jamal Mosley and his staff and the players to, as he always says, not get too high, not get too low. And as always, like we've said on this show, with all these injuries, if we can just stay within striking distance until we get healthy, I think we're going to be okay. And as long as that's the case, I still believe that. But I also don't blame some Magic fans who are panicking right now, because this is a very concerning trend of late. I agree. How much getting Franz, Jalen, Goga back solves that? I think it definitely will fix some of it. But does it solve all of our problems? I don't think it does. But I think it should be enough to make us good again.
To me, it solves every problem except the shooting. It fixes the defense, which has sucked. It fixes the energy, which has sucked.
Yeah.
Right? And if the Magic have like the Magic level of defense and effort, you're in every single game, basically every night, and you're able to grind out a lot of those wins. And then the blue moon game where the shooting comes around, you're winning by 20, you're winning by 30. But maybe it does fix the shooting. Like there is a possibility that it doesn't. We're not talking about fixing the shooting in terms of all of a sudden we're shooting 37, 38% as a team. We're shooting 33, 34, 35% as a team. Mm-hmm. Most nights for this team, the way that they defend, it will be good enough to win.
Right.
So when I say like, oh, it doesn't fix everything, but it kind of does. There's the opportunity that it does. The defense and the energy, no questions asked. I'm not worried about that at all. The biggest thing that has to come around for the Magic to really feel like they've taken a big step this season is the shooting has to get back on track. If the shooting can get back on track, those other things are there, then this team will pretty much be able to achieve what they wanted to this year. Having home court advantage, we'll see what happens in a first round matchup against whoever. But if the energy is there, the defense is there. If the shooting is there for 4 of those 7 games in a first round matchup, you will be advancing.
Yep, true.
And the shooting, at least last year in the playoffs, was far better at home. That will probably still be the case. So if you have home court advantage and you have 4 of those first 7 games at home, you have a better chance of being able to get those shooting performances that you need that will be able to carry you over the finish line into a second round matchup. And if the Magic finish with home court advantage, win a first round series, as long as they don't get the doors blown off of them in the second round, I think we will all be elated with that level of success this season with this team.
To reiterate how you started this conversation, the Magic are still just 2 games back of home court. So, yeah, it sucks. The Magic were in 3rd and 4th all season long up until last 2 weeks maybe. And so to drop all the way to 7th, pushing 8th, pushing 9th now, it looks bad, and it is bad. But again, just being 2 games back of the 4 seed keeps that within distance for sure.
Yeah, and you and I had this same conversation the last episode. A week from now, you could be the 9 seed. 2 weeks from now, you could be the 4 seed.
Yep.
We have to keep that level of perspective right now. We're going to talk about the week ahead, obviously, a little bit later, but Toronto, Portland, Tuesday and Thursday, to me, those are both must wins. I don't even want to know the state of mind that I will be in if we lose Tuesday, but especially if we lose Tuesday and Thursday, and we're sitting at 5 losses in a row, 2 of those being to Toronto and Portland, I will be hitting the panic button. But I believe we will win. Well, okay, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself there. But like, if you get Franz back Thursday at home versus Portland, I'm not saying that will happen. Some people are speculating that it could happen for a lot of the reasons that we discussed last episode. But if he's back Thursday or he's back Saturday versus Detroit, you've got to think Goga. I mean, that's another 5-6 days here. You've got to think Goga is going to be back Tuesday or Thursday, hopefully. And then at the rate that Jalen is progressing, you would think that by no later than Monday the 27th, you have Jalen back against Miami. Hopefully,
hope so, man.
Hopefully. So. I am leaning optimistically there, but if you're able to do a lot of that, I think these issues are fixed. But right now, like in terms of things the Magic can do right now without getting guys back, it's just to play to their standard in terms of the defense and the level of effort. If they can do that, they'll beat Toronto, they'll beat Portland. If they don't, they may not beat Toronto. They may not beat Portland. They probably won't beat Detroit or Miami if they're playing the way that they're playing right now, which, yes, it's alarming to see the energy and the effort as of late. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken, and it's time for one of our, if not our very favorite segments of the week. This week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. Although this week all the jams came in losses, we do have a favorite this week. We're going to go back to Friday night to the 3:02 mark of the second quarter. Paolo Banchero drives right over Drew Holiday, the right baseline, pulls up for a 2, clanks off the rim. Wendell Carter Jr. comes down with it. Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis both collapse on Wendell. Seeing this, Paolo Banchero sprints to the rim. Wendell with the wraparound pass around Kristaps Porzingis to Paolo. Paolo jumps up and slams it down over Kristaps Porzingis with the left hand to make it a 48-57 game, with the Celtics leading in that one. Unfortunately, the Magic did not pull out the victory, but that is this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. And just a word from Jam Hot, they are proudly serving the city beautiful, bringing jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. A Nashville and LA-inspired hot chicken shack locally owned and operated in Winter Park, Florida, located at 400 West New England Ave, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. Follow Jam Hot Chicken on all social media and check out jamhotchickenfl.com to access their menu, online ordering, and all things Jam Hot. Ranked one of Florida's top restaurants in 2024 by Yelp once again. So just a big shout out to our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken. And if you don't want to leave the house, you want to get it Uber Eats, shout out to one of our patrons, Fuchsia, who is in town all the way from Hawaii for this game against the Denver Nuggets. Wanted jam, didn't want to leave the hotel, got jam delivered right to their hotel and was able to enjoy that before the game. So shout out to Fuchsia. And again, shout out our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken.
Speaking of patrons, shout out Magic Kids 714, David Duffy, Jay, Only Franz, and Mysterious Mosley. Those are 5 of our elite and Hall of Fame tier patrons. Our patrons are the people that financially support the Six Man Show and make all the things that we do possible, whether it's watch party, like the big one that we had on Friday, or other live events that we have, to our all-new look this year with the new rebrand and all that kind of stuff, the 6-man long sleeves that we got to drop, earlier just last month. All these things are only possible because of our patrons. To find out more about our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/the6man show and check out the different tiers that we have available, options for you to financially support the show. And on every single episode, if we have a brand new patron, we always shout them out. So if you want to get a shout out on the show, go to patreon.com/the6man show. Again, shout out to all of our patrons. You're all amazing, and we couldn't do this without you. Now, let's get back to the episode.
All right. I think that's all we're going to say about these games. We'll talk a little bit more about this week in a few minutes here. But let's go ahead and get into my conversation, I guess, with our good friend Jeff Turner. All right, Magic fans, we are making quite the tradition here the last couple of seasons where we check in with our friend here, Jeff Turner, every quarter of the season. No Kevin Tucker. Tonight he's out of town, so it is just myself and Magic legend and color commentator on FanDuel Sports Florida, Jeff Turner. Jeff, how are you doing? How you been doing the last 21 games here? Thanks for taking the time.
No, we're doing good. I guess we've had a few injuries since we last connected. Getting a major piece back here recently in Paolo Banchero, but certainly would like to see this team whole again. And I don't think we're too far off, which is exciting.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to talk about the injuries. Actually, the last time that we had you on was right before the Franz Wagner injury. So a lot has transpired since then.
Yes.
But as we've asked the last couple of times, how would you rate your hotel setup there in Boston?
This is a good trip. Boston is one of my favorite towns now, so this one's good. I've got an actual desk workspace. I've got a table. It's not just a table. It's good. Got plenty of room, plenty of space. So yeah, I like that. Milwaukee, which we just came from on this trip, not so much. But you take some good ones and some bad ones. It's just kind of like broadcast locations. Sometimes we have good ones. Sometimes not so good. So, we just, that's the NBA.
So talking about the Magic specifically, again, it's been roughly 20 games since we had you on. The Magic right now are 23-19. So the first 21 of the season, the Magic went 14-7, and since then they've gone 9-12. Hit a little bit of a rough patch, obviously losing Franz, and more recently losing Jalen and Goga, and Gary Harris has been sort of in and out of the lineup.
Mo Wagner in that stretch too, correct?
Losing Mo Wagner to the ACL for sure. During that holiday stretch, right, where you have the loss to Oklahoma City, but then you rattle off the big comeback wins, over Miami, over Boston. Haven't had the chance to talk to you just yet, but how much fun was it calling those games, and what were you most impressed by?
I think, obviously those are a lot of fun. I mean, there are times where you're looking and you're like, there's just no way, they're going to come back from this. And, with all the injuries, I think the thing that has impressed me the most, and we've talked about this probably, till ad nauseum probably, but it's just the resiliency of this team. And, everybody, next man up, we do it by committee, you've heard all the sayings. And, there was just a stretch there where we did have Jalen, who was, kind of just leading this, this energetic group, but different guys. Tristan would step up. Trevelyan Queen stepped up in some games. Goga played well. We got Cole going a little bit. So all those things coming together, I think for me, was just terrific. But, once it's just, it can only last so long. I mean, the one thing about the NBA is, teams are well informed going in what's, strengths and weaknesses, particularly when you get to the bottom of your lineup. And I think we had a stretch there when we lost Jalen for a few games where it was just, before we got Paolo back, where it's just, you're playing with, the guys who are supposed to be, your complementary players to your stars. And they grew and they were able to do some good things, but we just didn't have the depth with all the injuries. And I think that really kind of caught up to us there.
Yeah. Looking back to last season, two of the most improbable, wins. One wasn't a win, but just an incredible performance in Sacramento last year, the way that they just hung tight and fought throughout that game. And then the very next game, the win in Denver. When we compare that to the win against Miami, when you're down, 21 or 22 heading into the fourth quarter, to you, which felt more unbelievable of those games in the moment?
I guess the one that, obviously that Sacramento game, because, again, we were, down to, we just kept losing players. And, the way that we won, I guess the most incredible thing about that one is we knew going in, because we heard Mike Brown say it, that this team, you have to keep them out of the paint and keep them on the perimeter. And the fact that, we would that night, like, I think set a magic record for made threes. And it was so amazing. And the guys that stepped up in that game, I mean, Chumo KK, had a big game, right? And Caleb Houston. And we were just raining in threes. Like, I'm not going to lie. And anytime that you know how I feel about the Miami Heat, I want it to be a rivalry. I want other people to feel it's a rivalry. That was very satisfying to come back, from 21 against a team. I don't care how many injuries they have or who's not playing. Eric Spoelstra is such a good coach. And to look down there, and he was just exasperated. He had no answers. There were no buttons that he could push to stop the avalanche that was, coming down on them. That was a little satisfying as well.
And when we look at this most recent stretch, without Franz, obviously you have like the 3 miracle wins, like right around Christmas, the Miami game, the Boston game, the game at home against Brooklyn where you're down and you're able to come back. Like you mentioned, we always talk about how just resilient this team is and just the spirit. Like we keep saying like this team just has an unkillable spirit. That's sort of what the phrase that we've coined throughout this most recent stretch. But to me, all the respect that I've had for Jamal Mosley in the first 3 seasons of him coaching this team, somehow it feels like he's outdoing himself this season. When there's a lot of talent on this team. One of the biggest things and biggest positives that we talked about or mentioned with this team in the preseason is the amount of depth that they have.
Correct.
But depth is one of those things where, like, if you lose your 4th guy, you lose your 5th guy, your 6th guy. When you lose your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th guy, and the team is still finding ways to win. When we talk about the resiliency, were you surprised at all at just how resilient this group is, and for such a prolonged period of time?
Yeah, and I think I've said on the broadcast, that we have to stop being surprised by this because, the one thing that I think it's so hard in the NBA and that's to create an identity, like who you are as not only just a team from season to season, but an organization. And what Jamal Mosley has done, obviously Jeff Weltman has to get the credit because he's put the high character players in that locker room, right? That's part of his decision-making process. He wants high character guys. But to put together a group and have them buy in that if you're going to be a part of this team, you have got to commit to playing on the defensive end first, and then have them hold each other accountable. So no matter what happens, night in and night out, this team's going to play well on the defensive end. There may be a one-off here and there, but for the most part, every night, and coaches and teams around the league, they know this. So that, this is a Magic team that has this reputation. For me, like watching that, and seeing it, I mean, Jonathan, it is crazy. There'll be nights where like we can't throw it in the ocean and you'll look up and we're only down 4 or 5, and you're like, well, how? And then you look and it's like, there are just certain things that, like against Boston in that win. You think about it, that's a team that's leading the league in almost 53s a game, right? And we held them to 19 fewer 3-point attempts. That's just part of the philosophy, the defense, running teams off the line, making them do something uncomfortable that they don't normally do. And so I guess the incredible thing about this whole resiliency and everything is from 1 to 15 or 17, I guess, if you count the Trevelyan and Mac, that's they buy into this, right? And if you step on the floor, if you're not given everything you got, then you come out and somebody else gets an opportunity. And so I think that's been really, really fun to watch.
The defense and the effort has unmistakably become, the identity of this team. Unfortunately, something else that has made its way into the identity of this team, and you alluded to it a moment ago, is the struggles from shooting. So far, I think the Magic are around 18th in the league in 3-point attempts per game, but they rank dead last in 3-point percentage. Kevin and I actually stumbled upon this last night. Not only did the Magic rank last in the NBA in 3-point percentage, but if the Magic were in the G League, they would also rank last in the G League in 3-point percentage. But
boy, I did not know that.
It's an unfortunate stat to come across, let me tell you what.
Yeah.
But one thing that I just sort of keep struggling with is when you look at the roster, you have guys, like Jalen Suggs, who shot the ball so well last year, Wendell Carter, who's been improving the last few years, Jonathan Isaac was close to 40% last year, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has hovered around 40% the last few years. What do you make of the shooting struggles? Like, shooters go through cold stretches, but through 42 games now, just to the level that they've struggled. I think there was an article on NBA.com last week where they were doing power rankings, and there was a note that if the Magic continue at this rate, it would be the worst shooting season for a team in almost 12 years. So is this just a cold streak, or do you think there's something else going on?
Well, I think it's a lot of things. I think it's one of the, again, the team evolves a little bit. Lately the problem has been, it kind of going back to what we talked about with all the injuries. I mean, if you go back and look at it, I think we played right after the first of the year, when Franz went out, I guess. Then we lost Mo, and then, I guess it would have been after the Toronto game. There was a stretch right there. We did not have a player on the floor, and think about this, who was averaging over 10 points a game. Goga was our leading scorer at like 9 a game. Now, we got Cole Anthony and Anthony Black and, guys that are capable of, having big nights and everything. But to that point, they had not. That puts a really it's tough on a team to go in, and now the expectation is the weight of every shot. I said this, the other night in the Milwaukee game. Part of the issue is until you have those nights. We can even talk about. I think it was the Toronto game. When I think we made 19 threes in that one. It is just the nature of the game and being a player. Is when the shots are going in, right? It almost builds upon itself because the weight of every shot is not so big, right? Like if I miss one, we're on a hot streak. If I miss one, if I miss two, it's not the end of the world, right? Like there's a comfort level when you miss as a team, and they know they're struggling, and so you miss a few. It's almost like you start aiming the basketball, like you're trying to get it. You know what I mean? It's there's so much tension and everything. So I go back to that, when we're healthy. I mean, remember, like we forget that for most of the year last season, we did the same thing, right? But then it kind of switched over like the last 20, 25 games. We got on a nice little roll. We started to get healthy again, and we got on a nice little roll. We ended up, I think on the season, maybe 34, percent or something like that. But we were in that low 30s last year. If you go back and look at those first 5 games with Paolo and Franz and everything, Jalen Suggs was shooting it better. Having Paolo in particular, but I think getting Franz back and certainly Jalen as well, I really do believe there's something about the focus of defenses on stopping those guys frees everything up. And then if you've got great players like those two guys, particular Franz and Paolo, who as a teammate, you just believe they're so great that, you know what, if I don't make this shot, Paolo's going to come down next time and he's going to get us something, or Franz is going to get us something. You're just playing a little bit more freer. And I think right now we're in a stretch. Now I realize you're right. It's over a 42 game see, that we're shooting 30%. I mean, we're what, 3 or 4 percentage points below number 9 or number 29 in the league. So it is concerning, but I just feel like once we get healthy, those numbers have to come up. The defense isn't going to change, but I keep saying if we can go from averaging 104 points a game to averaging 110, imagine with our defense. I mean, we hold teams under 110 points just about every night. We just can't seem to get to 100 very often. Think about that. If we make 2 more threes, or Paolo or Franz gets to the free throw line 6 more times, we're at 110. It's not that margin right there. It doesn't seem that's it's impossible to get to, and I think that's what we have to look to. Excuse me.
To your point, it does seem like it may be something mental, and like you said, the longer it goes on, the more you feel the weight of each shot. And
yeah.
I do think there is something to, like, it feels like the team has lost their swagger a little bit, and what team wouldn't, suffering all the injuries that we've had and the amount of time that you've gone without key pieces. Like, even early in the season, you were not winning games in our building, and now you've dropped several of your last few home games. So it does feel like the best opportunity for this team in terms of the shooting for that switch to flip is going to be, you get Franz back in the lineup, you get Jalen Suggs back into the lineup, you get Goga Batadze, and you get some of these other guys healthy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you win a couple in a row and shots start to fall, and that can really be a real snowball effect.
I think we probably, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one of the things, and probably Dante and David and I haven't talked about this enough over the last 5-6 games, but that swagger that you're talking about, it's where you really see that you miss Jalen and Mo Wagner, right? Like, there's just that energy, that feistiness. We're not going to get Mo back, obviously, but having Jalen out of the lineup, there's just something about his energy that guys feed off of, that just makes us who we are. And I'm starting to think, that might be the most key guy that we've got to get healthy and get back on the floor.
Do you feel that there is something to Paolo being out? Franz had the opportunity to step up. Franz goes out. Jalen's had the opportunity to step up. Like, do you see this? Because as we're recording this, the Magic are still 5th in the East. Now you're just a couple of games from being 9th in the East. But even if you're 9th in the East after a couple of games, you're just a few games out of being 3rd or 4th in the East again. So the sky is not falling. But do you find this time could potentially be a blessing in disguise for these guys? Because for Jalen particularly, and Franz to a certain extent, but Jalen seemed like he really proved to himself that maybe I can't be the guy every single night, but on any given night, I can drop 25 to 30 points and contribute offensively in a really big way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I think, I think that's been, you're always looking for a silver lining through all of this. And I do think that is the case. More than anything, I think, the NBA season is a long season. As physical as this team plays and as hard as they play, particularly Jalen Suggs, it might not be bad. This is like his body is healing, right? Like, I mean, the guy is, always banged up because of the way he plays. So, getting him back, for the final stretch of the season, after having a couple of weeks off, maybe that allows his body to heal up a little bit. But to your point, I think you're right. I think, different guys have had to do different things. Tristan da Silva has had to do more with Franz being out. We've seen him try to step up. I think Tristan right now is battling, the length of the season. He's already played more games than he's ever played in one season in college now, as we reach this point. So he's got to get past that rookie wall, if you will. Anthony Black has, been more aggressive, taken more shots, and been needed to be more assertive. So yeah, I think all of those things will bode well for the Magic going forward. We hope, once you get everybody healthy.
To your point about Jalen, if you're fortunate enough to see that guy walk around in between games, it seems like a legit miracle that he's able to run around and give the effort that he does in these games. We talk about Franz. Recently, he was updated to the return to reconditioning, whatever that designation is.
Easy for you to say, right?
Yeah, it's
Worst
completely
term
ridiculous.
Why they ever came up with that is ridiculous. Okay, wait, let me see if I can do it. It's return to competition reconditioning.
Yes,
that's what he's doing.
That's what it is. Right. So hopefully he's going to be back in the not too, distant future here. But we saw when Paolo went down, Franz really elevated his game and took it to a level that I don't know we had seen him play at a prolonged stint. Do you have any level of concern about Paolo and Franz like learning to sort of coexist again now that Franz has shown that like he can be almost every bit as good as Paolo on a given night?
I don't think there's any concern about that. I mean, I think it just gives Jamal Mosley more flexibility where you can actually, if you've got at least one of them on the floor, right? Like you've got a star player on the floor at all time, a guy, that can be a facilitator, that can be a high usage guy. One of the things I think Franz excels at is his ability to play off of the basketball. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands to be effective. His cutting, his, his shooting has gotten to the point where spot up shooting. So when Paolo's on the floor and Paolo is your number one offense, Franz fits together with him just fine. I think the beauty of it is now when Paolo goes to the bench and Franz is out there, now Franz has been the guy, which, he was the first one to admit this was all new to him, right? Like, being a guy that's, taking 20 to 25 shots a game, that's never been him, at any level that he's played at. And so, that took a while to get used to for him. And, I think he handled it very well.
Super excited for Franz to come back, and I don't have any concerns either. I think if anything, it's going to free Paolo up to not have so much responsibility and have to carry that each night. Jeff, there is one thing that I mentioned before you and I started to record that I wanted to show you and get your thoughts on. So here, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Jeff and I are here on Zoom. As I share this, Jeff, so what we're looking at here, this is Michael Jordan's Fleer rookie card from the 86-87 season. But what some people have pointed out is if you look at this card, it appears that the Bulls are playing the Nets on this night. And if you look just behind Michael Jordan's left leg, that appears like it could be a young Jeff Turner there. Do you think that that's you, or that could possibly be you?
If they're playing the Nets, and that is 1984, and that is Michael Jordan's rookie year, then yes, that definitely is me.
Some Magic fans have been asking.
How about that?
This, Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but Michael Jordan's Fleer rookie card, like this is the basketball card. Like this is one of the most sought after basketball cards of all time, and you just so happen to be on that card.
How about that? So there you go.
I'm sure that doesn't mean a lot to you, but it's just I said this is one of those like, is this anything kind of things. Jeff Turner being on Michael Jordan's rookie card, is this anything?
Okay. All right. That is so funny. I thought you were going to ask me how many times, how many times do you think Michael Jordan dunked on you? And I would think I'd need more than two hands to come up with a number of that. So.
Really, that much?
Well, he dunked on everybody, though, right?
True. Very true.
Probably not that many, but I would have had to been on the floor with him a lot more than that, I guess.
And then, Jeff, there is one more thing that I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge. You and I were talking a little bit before we started to record, and unfortunately, I had heard rumors of this, but you were able to confirm that your Uncle Jack, who Magic fans that have attended Magic home games over the course of the last 10 plus years will know him better as the dancing usher, but he passed away last month.
Yep. Uncle Jack had battled cancer for about 3 years, and he passed away. Would have been December 19th, which it's funny. Magic fans, if you're around, probably would have seen him a month before that. He was coming to the games. He was battling the chemo and the radiation through the years. It's just but he was always wanted to be at the game. He loved to be there at his post. And so about a month before, it was probably his last game. He fought the good fight, but it just finally, it's an awful disease, and it just caught up with him. So, on behalf of my family, it really meant a lot to him to be a part of the environment at the Magic games, to be the dancing usher, and every time he sang the national anthem, the applause and everything. It's just, we as a family really appreciate the love and support that the Magic fans, particularly in the arena, gave to Jack. He was, he loved being in the crowd, and he loved the energy of it and everything. So he will be missed. He was a good man.
Yeah, once again, we just want to share our condolences, obviously, and I know I speak for Magic fans everywhere when we say that he'll be missed. As long as I've had the ability to go to Magic games, seeing him dancing, in the fourth quarter as they're playing Shout over the loudspeakers, and seeing Uncle Jack dancing about, and like you had shared, he's battling esophageal cancer for the last few years, but still able to muster up the strength and sing the national anthem, when given the opportunity. So, I know you and I have talked, he's in a better place, and he's at peace now, but definitely, just feel awful for your family's loss. And I know Magic fans everywhere, share our condolences, and he'll definitely be missed, and gave us a lot of great memories over the years.
Yeah, we appreciate it. The family appreciates. I appreciate your words, but again, it's just he battled for so long, and we as a family, have great faith that we'll see him again someday, and that he's right where he's supposed to be now.
Amen. Absolutely. And this feels like an awful shift here, Jeff, but I do want to ask, what are you, before we wrap it up here, most looking forward to with this Magic team, over the next quarter of the season here?
I'm really, looking to see what a healthy Magic team looks like. I just feel like there's just so much more to this team that, we've kind of been, we've been cheated out of because of all the injuries and everything. We had 5 games with everybody together. Obviously, again, as we mentioned before, we're not going to see Mo Wagner for the rest of the year, but if we can get all the pieces on the floor for a sustained period of time, I'm just so excited to see where that takes us. What kind of run we can go on here with everybody healthy once that happens.
Maybe it's my homerism or my endless naive optimism about this team, but just seeing what Franz looked like at one point in the season, what we've seen from Jalen, and obviously what we saw from Paolo earlier in the year, dropping 50, and he looked really great in the first game back. He's still sort of getting his legs back underneath him, but I just cannot be convinced that if this Magic team had been fully healthy to this point in the season, that maybe they wouldn't be the 2nd or 3rd seed in the East. And I'm just not convinced that there's a team at least in the Eastern Conference, that the Magic just don't have a shot against in a 7-game series. We've talked all the time about, wanting to see Miami in a playoff series. But, are there any teams that, you would really look forward to playing in the playoffs, or are there any teams that maybe you would want to avoid?
I don't know. I'm kind of like you. I feel like, for the most part, we've shown, that we can compete with just about anybody in the East, and we've done that without a healthy roster. I guess if you're the Magic, and I think if you asked, probably those guys that were in that playoff series last year, they'd love to have another run at Cleveland, because they had a really bitter taste in their mouth from the way that season ended. The way Cleveland's playing, you look at it and they say, well, that's crazy. But, we've seen them once, right after we lost Paolo early in the season. I don't know. We've beaten Boston once, this year. The Knicks have, are a team that we feel like we match up well. We can be physical with them. So, I'm not sure that there's anybody that you feel like you can't compete with. A 7-game series, there's so many factors that go into it. The health of the team obviously is a big one, but let's not forget that this Magic coaching staff, they went someplace as a staff they had never been last year in the playoffs, and so they've got that under their belt as well. So there's just so many positives. I'm like you. I just want to see us get there and make it happen. Obviously, I still believe the goal should be, you talked about it. It's really close right now, 4 through 9, and there'll be a lot of up and down. But I just feel like the Magic, that has to be the goal, is to get to that 4th spot, and get home court advantage in the playoffs.
As we record this Thursday night and I look at the Eastern Conference standings, like I just start, like, each of these teams I have some kind of like personal vendetta against, and would love to see any of them in the first round, whether it be the Cavs because of our matchup last year.
Yeah.
Boston, I really just have grown like a dislike for Eddie House. And we've had a little bit of like internet banter back and forth between us and him. So, and plus we've matched up with them pretty well over the years. The Knicks and their fans coming into our building and taking over some nights, and then having the audacity to talk trash while we don't have Paolo, we don't have Franz Wagner. And then we were still able to beat them, a couple of weeks ago without those guys. The way that things have gone with the Bucks so far to start the season, barely losing in the in-season tournament, barely losing in Paolo's return. Obviously, the Heat, for reasons that we don't really have to speak on. Everybody sort of understands that. But for any of those teams, I cannot wait. We might get one of those teams in the first round, and if we're fortunate enough to go on to the second round, this could be a pretty spicy playoff season for the Magic. So really looking forward to that. And I know you are, Jeff. I know I've shared this before, but one of my favorite things about you is that, yes, you are very, professional, and you do a great job, but you are such a fan of this team, and that's always so obvious. And just appreciate that always comes across, and appreciate the job that you and the entire broadcast team does. And again, just appreciate you for taking the time and coming on here. I know you don't have to talk with us, 4 times a season. 5 times if you count the off season, but we always appreciate it, and we always appreciate the time.
Well, I appreciate it. Now I found out that, I've got, my Aunt Bonnie is a regular listener of this. So I feel like I'm all in. I've got to be committed.
Well, we appreciate Aunt Bonnie for sure, and her support, and the fact that she shared that with you is just, I can't wait to tell the guys. They're gonna be really excited about that. So a special shout out to Aunt Bonnie. Thanks for all of your support, and thanks for tuning into the show. And once again, Jeff, just thanks so much for stopping by here.
All right. Thanks, Jonathan, for having me.
Big thank you to our friend Jeff Turner for always taking the time. And yeah, we had heard rumors from some season ticket holders that had not seen Uncle Jack in the building this year. But unfortunately, the conversation that you just heard, we got confirmation from Jeff Turner that Jack Turner, Uncle Jack, the dancing usher at the Kia Center, passed away in December. And that's awful news, obviously, most and foremost for, Jeff and his family, but Magic fans, like his presence is absolutely already missed at Magic games, Kevin.
Yeah, special guy, been around the team in the arena for a very, very long time, and not just as an usher, but also as a anthem singer as well from time to time. And so, yeah, very special guy, beloved by everyone that knew him. Can't say that I knew him, but at least getting to high five him a couple times and see him on the jumbotron. Always a pleasant guy to be around, and so he will certainly missed by not just Magic fans, but like you said, first and foremost for his family.
Now that I'm thinking of it, I'll have to go back and look in my phone because I'm almost positive that 2019 Game 3 against Toronto, I got a photo with the fat guy, and that's not like a derogatory thing for those that don't know.
Name, yeah.
That's his literal name. And then I'm pretty sure I got a photo with Uncle Jack. For some reason, that just came to mind. I'll have to go back and look at that. But yeah, like I think it's so underrated. Like we go there to watch the games, right? But like other aspects of the game that bring people joy, I think a lot of times can go underappreciated, right? I was talking to somebody about that pretty recently. Like if you're at a game and you're just somebody that's bringing other people at the game, they're there to enjoy the Magic or whatever, but you're also like able to bring them like extra joy. That's just one of the coolest things ever. And yeah, he was an icon at Magic games, like during the fourth quarter when they would play shout, back in the day. They've done that less and less the last couple of years, but seeing him dancing, through the aisles there was always a good time, always brought a smile to your face. And definitely, I find some peace for his family and them being believers and knowing that they'll see him again. But that it still always stings, when you lose a family member on this side of eternity. But definitely will miss Uncle Jack, and we appreciate Jeff for always taking the time and look forward to talking to him again in another couple of weeks here as the Magic get ready to go on this next quarter stretch of the season here. But Kevin, really only thing left for us to do is go through the week ahead. I know we alluded to it a little bit earlier. Toronto on Tuesday. I know it's freezing here in Florida. Monday morning, it's supposed to be like feels 8 of 28, which we're not used to here. I don't know how cold it's going to be up by you, but I'm guessing it's going to be pretty cold in Toronto on Tuesday.
Jonathan, I need to tell you a little something about this Toronto team, okay? Their last 2 home games, they have beaten the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. They also
will not due for a loss.
They also will not have played since Friday. So they have 4 days off before this game. Well, 3 full days off, I guess, before this game on Tuesday. I think I'm going to pick the Raptors to win on Tuesday. That's what I'm going to do. The sky is going to be falling. It's going to be bad.
House.
But I'm going to redeem it because I'm going to pick the Magic to beat the Blazers on Thursday and beat the Pistons on, Saturday. So I'm going to pick the Magic going 2-1. Tuesday is going to be sad. It's going to be ugly. I think we get at least one body back on Thursday. Gives us the lift that we need. We beat the Blazers, who are already, I think they've lost 5 in a row right now, and they're losing right now to the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in a row, and right now they're down double digits to the Bulls in the first half. So I think they're in bad shape. So we'll beat the Blazers at home, beat the Pistons at home, in what should be a really fun game. So I'm picking 2-1.
Oh, man. All right. I'm going to have to shake that negativity from my mind, and I'm just going to have to go all the way to the other side. I'm going to have to say 3-0.
Oh.
I think you have to beat Toronto, man. I can't see this team losing 4 in a row. They've just been too resilient all year, and I just think they find a way. It might not be pretty. I just think they find a way, dig deep, get a win on Tuesday. Thursday would be just over a week since Franz has entered the return to reconditioning or return to competition reconditioning. And like if you're going to bring him back during that home stretch, I don't think you bring him back Saturday for him to play 1 game and then go on the road. So maybe this is the optimist in me. Bring him back Thursday, even if it's 15, 20 minutes, bring Franz back. And then, whatever the minutes restriction is going to look like from there. But I'm hoping he's back Thursday. And then if he's back Thursday, that means he plays Saturday versus Detroit. you just gotta get a win there. I mean, you take a look at the standings. They're right there with us right now. Like you can't lose to these other Eastern Conference teams at this point in the game, especially at home, that you're really vying for playoff standings with. So I could look back at this a week from now and be like, man, what an idiot. But I'm just going to go with 3-0. I'm going to trust my heart and hope a week from now we're in much better spirits than we all are right now.
And here's the beauty of it. I think 3-0 is super possible. That's the beauty of how the schedule is changing. I know the team is struggling right now, but the schedule is changing more in our favor. Here's the other reason, not just like you said, head-to-head with Detroit, why this is a big game. This is the third and final meeting between these two teams. It is a 1-1 series. The winner of that game against Detroit on Saturday wins the season series and therefore would win the direct head-to-head tiebreaker. So it is a huge game. I think and hope the Magic will have that understanding in their mind. I think and hope the coaching staff would let them know that, hey, win this, you win the season series, could be important. I think they'll get up for it. Again, I'm picking them to win that game as well. But yeah, 3-0, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
We very much need it, Kevin. But that is going to do it for this one. Again, appreciate Jeff for joining the show. Always great to talk to him. And yeah, let's hope these next 2021 games are a little bit better than the last 2021 games were. That's going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!